Krell stood in front of the tall black door. His hands were shaking. He had been a junior officer in the Galactic Union for 6 years. He had flown ships, guarded criminals, and even fought in small battles. But this was something else. His new mission made no sense. A high-level officer had called him in without warning. The message was short and cold. You are assigned to Deathworld 19. Escort 5 prisoners. Humans will take over there. Do not ask questions. No one ever spoke about Deathworld 19. Not in the Academy. Not in the Union. It was a ghost name. People whispered it in secret, like a bad dream. Krell had only heard stories, strange, dark stories. He walked through the black door into a small briefing room. Inside was a hologram table, glowing with a map of a planet. It looked like a jungle, wild and dark, with lightning storms circling above it. A tall human stood next to the table. His face was serious, cold eyes, sharp jaw. He didn't smile. You are Krell? The man asked. Yes, sir, Krell said, trying to hide the fear in his voice. I'm Captain Ross. I'll be handing over the prisoners once we land on the surface. After that, your job is done. Krell frowned. I thought I was staying there, helping manage the prison. Captain Ross stared at him for a moment. No one stays, he said. Only the guards. But aren't we the guards? No, the human said quietly. Only humans guard Deathworld 19. Krell didn't understand. Why? Captain Ross didn't answer. Instead, he touched the hologram table. The jungle shifted. Strange shapes moved under the trees. Big shadows, unnatural. Krell leaned closer. The hologram showed parts of the forest moving, as if the jungle was alive. This is not just a prison, Ross said. It's something older, something dangerous. You will take the prisoners. That is all. Krell opened his mouth to ask more, but Ross raised a hand. Don't ask. Don't guess. Just do your job. The prisoner ship took off 3 hours later. Inside were 5 prisoners, all different species. A tall gray-skinned thief from Myra 6, a bug-eyed assassin from the Zaran Belt, a silent female with metal skin. No one talked. Even the prisoners seemed nervous. Krell sat near the front of the ship. He checked the data files again. Deathworld-19. Atmosphere, Earth-class danger level, maximum known wildlife, unknown prison type, unfenced, full planet containment guard type, human only. What did that mean? No fences, no buildings, just the entire planet as a prison? And only humans could guard it? He read the last line in the file. Reason for human-only guards, psychological compatibility. Non-human minds have failed in prolonged exposure. Failed? Krell closed the file. His stomach turned. The journey took 2 days. When they reached Deathworld 19, everything felt wrong. The planet looked normal from space. Blue skies, green forests, dark mountains. But the orbit sensors were glitching. Signals blinked in and out. The ship's systems kept resetting. One pilot cursed. It's like the planet doesn't want us to see it. Krell walked to the observation window. Something strange was happening. Clouds above the jungle moved in circles. Not like wind, but like they were watching. He turned to Captain Ross. What is this place? Ross didn't answer. Instead, he stood straight and said one word. Prepare. The ship landed near a dark clearing. No buildings. No guards in sight. Just a long dirt path leading into the jungle. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed from outside. Krell looked at the door camera. Humans, 12 of them, wearing dark armor, carrying no guns, no tech. Just sharp knives. Their faces were calm, cold, like statues. One woman stepped forward. She had short black hair, sharp eyes, and a scar across her face. I'm Sergeant Vale, she said through the intercom. Bring the prisoners. Captain Ross turned to Krell. Time to go. Outside, the jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Krell walked out with the 5 prisoners. They looked around nervously. The human guards formed a circle. Vale stepped forward and looked at each prisoner. Then she turned to Krell. "You are not staying," she said. Krell frowned. "But I was told to." "No," she cut him off. "This is not your place. Leave, now." Captain Ross handed her a data chip. "Transfer complete." Vale nodded. Then she looked at Krell, serious. "Do not come back here." "Why?" Krell asked. "What is this place really?" Vale leaned close. "This planet is alive. It eats fear. It watches every move. We don't guard the prisoners. We guard the line between this place and the rest of the galaxy." Krell felt his skin go cold. "That makes no sense." "You're lucky it doesn't." The ship took off without Krell. He had argued, said he wanted to see more, that he needed answers. Vale had stared at him for a long time, then said, "Fine, stay one night." Now he stood inside a small wooden hut near the jungle's edge. One guard handed him food. Another told him, "Don't walk outside after dark." Number 1 used lights, no tech, only torches, and the jungle. Whispered. It was not wind. It was not animals. It was voices. Krell didn't sleep. At midnight, he heard something outside. He looked through a small window. One of the prisoners, the gray-skinned thief, was running, screaming. His hands were on his head. He looked broken. He ran into the trees. Krell stepped outside. 2 guards were standing nearby. They didn't move. They didn't chase. "Are we not stopping him?" Krell asked. One guard said quietly, "No, but he'll die." The guard looked at him. Worse than that. Morning came. Fog covered the jungle. The air felt heavy. Sergeant Vale called Krell to the edge of the forest. A camera drone had picked up something in the trees. The screen showed the prisoner still alive. But something was wrong. He sat on the ground smiling. His eyes were all black. His skin was pale. He whispered to himself over and over, "I saw it. It saw me. I saw it. It saw me." Then he turned his head, looked directly at the camera, and smiled. Krell felt a chill deep in his bones. Vale turned off the screen. "You're leaving now," she said. Krell didn't argue. He stepped onto a small evac shuttle. 2 human guards joined him. As they lifted off, Krell looked back at the jungle. The trees moved again, but there was no wind. Inside the shuttle, Krell asked one final question. What really lives in that jungle? The guard next to him whispered, "Nothing lives there. Everything waits." The shuttle shook as it landed on the edge of the jungle again. Krell had returned. He could not stop thinking about the prisoner with black eyes, or the forest that moved without wind. After leaving, he had spent weeks studying Deathworld 19, but no records helped him. No one would speak. His superiors told him to forget it, but he COULDN, single quotes T, did so. Against orders, Krell asked for a special mission, a return trip to the planet. Now he was back, with permission. For 1 week only. The moment he stepped out of the shuttle, a strange weight pressed on his chest. The air felt heavy, wet, too still. Sergeant Vale waited for him. "You again," she said. "I need answers," Krell replied. "Real ones." Vale didn't smile. "Then come inside. And don't talk too much. The jungle listens." The prison had no walls, no fences. No buildings except a few huts made from trees and bones. It was not a normal prison. It was a zone, a curse. A place where the prisoners were thrown in and left to survive, or be taken by the jungle. The only thing that kept the madness away was the humans. Krell walked with Vale through the camp. Guards were sharpening knives. Not talking, not laughing, no music, no screens, no tech. Just silence and steel. "Why no guns?" Krell asked. "They don't work here," Vale replied. "Anything high-tech melts, explodes, or vanishes. We use what the jungle understands: blades, fire, blood." Krell looked into the trees. Something moved far away. Too fast. Too quiet. He looked at Vale. What was that? Nothing, she said. And everything. Later, Krell joined the guards for patrol. They walked in a circle, always facing outward. Never show fear, Vale said. Never speak of the things you see. Never run, and never ever leave the light. The prisoners were scattered across the jungle. No cells. They lived in tribes, built shelters from sticks and bones. Some were normal, others were mad. Some never came near the guards. Others begged for death. Krell saw one group huddled near a fire. Their skin was cracked, eyes hollow. They whispered to the ground. What's wrong with them? Krell asked. Guard said. They saw something they weren't meant to. Now they only talk to shadows. Krell swallowed hard. Why don't we help them? Vale looked at him. We do, by not going near them. That night, Krell sat alone in his hut. No lights. Just the moon. He wrote in his journal by candlelight. The jungle feels alive. The silence is not empty. It watches. It waits. Suddenly, he heard something outside. Soft footsteps. Then laughter. High. Broken laughter. He stood, walked to the window, and looked out. A prisoner stood by the trees. His body was thin, covered in cuts. He was smiling at nothing. Then he slowly looked up and stared directly at Krell. His smile widened. Krell stepped back. The man didn't move. Just stared. And smiled. Then he vanished into the trees. No sound. No footsteps. Just gone. Krell reported it to Vale in the morning. She said, Ignore it. He was right outside my window. Vale said nothing for a long time. Then she leaned in. Do you think the jungle cares about fences? About your window? About you? Krell stayed silent. She continued. There's something under the surface here. Something old. Something smart. It feeds on minds. It bends time. It studies fear. That's why we don't chase the mad ones. That's why we don't try to save everyone. Krell frowned. Then what do? We hold the line, she said. We keep it from growing. Later that day, a siren wailed. A prisoner had escaped into the deep jungle. The guards formed a unit. Krell went with them. No lights past Zone 7, Vale said. Stay close. They walked for hours. The trees grew thicker. The light dimmer, the air. Wrong. Then, they found the prisoner, or what was left of him. His body was hanging upside down, high in the trees, eyes gone, bones bent the wrong way. Strange symbols were carved into the trees around him. Symbols no one could read. Krell felt sick. What is this? He whispered. Vale didn't answer. But her hand was shaking. That night, the jungle screamed, not animals. Not wind. The trees screamed. Guards stood with torches around the camp. Krell couldn't sleep. He walked outside. The trees at the edge of the camp moved again. Like they were breathing. Then he saw something. A shape. Tall. Thin, almost human. But wrong. It stepped between two trees, then disappeared. Krell stepped back. Suddenly, Vale grabbed his shoulder. You see too much, she whispered. That's how it begins. He turned. What was that thing? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at him with calm, tired eyes. You want truth? She said. Double quotes, yes. Then stay alive long enough to understand it. The next morning, one guard was missing. His bed was untouched. No one heard anything. No signs of struggle. Just gone. Krell checked the watchtower logs. The last footage showed the guard walking into the jungle alone. Eyes open. Mouth closed. Like sleepwalking. Krell paused the video. The guard had left his knife behind. That never happened. Later, Krell walked to the edge of the jungle. He saw strange marks in the dirt. Footprints. But not from any human or alien. Too long. Too thin. 3 toes. Deep claws. Then he saw something that made his blood freeze. A set of footprints, human, walking with the creature. Side by side. Into the trees. That evening, Krell confronted Vale. "What is happening here?" he shouted. "These aren't just prisoners. Something's inside the jungle. Something else." Vale stared at him. Then she sighed. "You still think this is about prisoners? Krell, we're not guarding them." "Then who?" Vale looked into the trees. "We're guarding the universe from this place." Krell shook his head. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said slowly, "there are things older than time. And this planet is one of them. Maybe it's alive. Maybe it's a crack in the galaxy. But once long ago, something came here." She looked at him with tired eyes. "And now we're the lock. Humans, only us. No other species can hold the line. Others break. We bend, but we don't break." Krell felt cold. "Why?" "Because we already know darkness," she whispered. "Humans were born in nightmares. We carry it in our blood." As night came, the guards circled the camp again. Krell stayed close. The jungle was louder than before. Something was coming. Vale whispered to him. "One day here is enough to change a man. You stay longer. You become part of it." He nodded slowly, but deep down, he knew he couldn't leave, not yet, not until he understood the terrifying truth behind Deathworld 19, what humans were really guarding. Asterisk. Krell sat near the fire, staring into the flames. He had now spent 3 nights on Deathworld 19, but it felt like weeks. His hands shook when he tried to write in his journal. His thoughts were slower, his memories blurred. He wasn't sure if the sun had risen 2 or 3 times. Was it sleep? Or was the planet doing something to him? He didn't know anymore. Sergeant Vale stood across the fire, sharpening a blade. "You're changing," she said without looking at him. "I feel it," Krell whispered. "Good. That means you're still fighting it." Later that day, Krell was invited to a meeting. All the guards sat in a tight circle. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Vale began. "Today we review the rules. For new ones, and for the old ones who are starting to forget." She looked at Krell as she said it. She raised one hand. "Rule 1. Never run. Running gives it power. Rule 2. Stay in the light. Natural light only. No tech. Rule 3. If someone starts hearing voices, tie them down. Do not talk to the voices." Krell looked around. Every guard nodded slowly. "Rule 4. Never kill the mad. If you do, their minds stay. And the jungle feeds on that." He felt cold. "Rule 5. If you see a door in the jungle, do not enter. Even if it looks like home." Krell's voice was low. "A door?" One guard leaned in. "The jungle shows you what you want. Or what you fear. If you step through, you never come back." That evening, a new prisoner arrived. Not a criminal, but someone who had escaped another Deathworld prison. A tall, 4-armed alien named Zarn. He was strong, loud, and not afraid of anything. "I will not stay in this open camp," he shouted. "I will go where I want." Vale said nothing. Zarn pushed a guard. "You humans act strong, but I see no real power here." Vale finally looked at him. "Then go. The jungle's open." Krell whispered, "Is that safe?" Vale replied, "Let him learn." Zarn walked into the jungle alone. He returned the next morning, but he was different. His muscles were smaller, his arms thinner, his back bent. He fell to the ground shaking. "How long was I gone?" he asked. Kr. Eel checked the logs. 9 hours. Zarn stared at him. "No, I was there for years." He began to cry. Then he started screaming. The guards moved fast. They tied him down, covered his eyes, covered his ears. Krell stepped back. "What's happening to him?" Vale answered softly. "The jungle gave him what he wanted. Time, power, but it also took from him." "What did it take?" Krell asked. Vale looked at Zarn, now silent and pale. "His will." Later, Krell sat with a guard named Doran. Doran was old, thin. His face had deep scars. but his eyes were calm. Krell asked, "How long have you been here?" Doran laughed softly. 2 years, or 20. Can't tell anymore. Why stay? Doran stared at the jungle. Because something worse lives in there, and I swore I'd never let it leave. He looked at Krell. You think this is just a prison? No. This is a cage. But not for the prisoners. Krell frowned. Then whose? The cage for? Doran said nothing, but he pointed into the jungle. That night, something happened. A tech drone from the Galactic Union arrived by mistake. It was a flying camera, dropped by another ship. It beeped, scanned, and recorded. The guards went silent. Krell asked, "Should we send it back?" Vale whispered, "No, burn it." "But it's just a camera." Vale raised her voice. "Burn it." The moment the drone crossed into the jungle border, it exploded. Not like a bomb. Like it had melted from the inside. A scream followed. From deep in the jungle, a voice that sounded like it came from everywhere and nowhere. Krell covered his ears. The ground shook for 6 seconds. Then, silence. The guards lit more torches that night. Formed a tight circle. Vale stood at the center. She looked at Krell. "You saw what tech does here. It breaks the balance. This place doesn't want machines. It wants souls." Krell felt a question forming. If we're not guarding the prisoners, and we're not here to kill anything, what are we doing? Vale answered slowly. "We are holding back an idea. A thought so dark, so powerful, that if it spreads, it will twist the minds of billions. It doesn't kill bodies, it kills meaning." Krell didn't understand until he heard laughter. High, distant, from the jungle. The same voice from the night before, but this time, it said his name. The next day, Krell went to find Zarn, but Zarn was gone. No signs of escape, just one thing left in his hut. A drawing on the wall. It showed a circle of trees. Inside the circle, a black figure with no face. Behind it, humans, standing still, watching. Krell showed it to Vale. She said nothing. He asked, "What is this?" She finally spoke. The original prisoner. Back in camp, more guards were whispering. Another one had vanished in the night. Her knife was still there. 3 guards tied themselves together. Before sleeping. Others refused to speak at all. Krell sat with Doran again. The old guard gave him a map. It was hand-drawn. Old paper. "This shows the cage circle," Doran said. "The heart of the prison. The place where it began." Krell looked at it. There was a red X in the center. "What's there?" he asked. Doran smiled. "Only madness." That evening, Krell had a dream. He stood in a jungle made of bones. The trees had eyes. The ground whispered. A door stood in front of him. It looked like the entrance to his childhood home. He heard his mother's voice. "Come inside, Krell. It's safe here." He reached for the door. Then he heard Vale's voice. "Don't go in." He turned. Vale stood beside him. Her eyes were hollow. Her mouth bleeding. She whispered, "It's already inside you." Krell woke up screaming. The guards were waiting outside his hut. "You talked in your sleep," one said. Krell nodded, breathing hard. "It's just a dream." Vale walked up to him. "Not here," she said. "Here, dreams are messages." He whispered. "From what?" She said nothing, but she handed him a knife. "You'll need this," she said, "for later." Krell now understood. The truth, this was no prison for aliens. This was no punishment planet. This was a containment zone. A wall of human minds holding something back. Something old. Something that didn't want to escape. It wanted to be invited out, and it had. Started talking to him. Krell couldn't sleep anymore. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the door from his dream. Sometimes it was in his old home. Sometimes it was in the forest. Sometimes it was floating in the sky. And each time he heard a voice behind it whispering, "Just open it." One morning, Krell stepped outside and found the camp in chaos. A Prisoner had stolen a weapon. An old human rifle, something that should not exist on Deathworld-19. Guards were running. Prisoners were screaming. Smoke rose from the edge of the jungle. Then a loud blast. The stolen rifle fired. But something strange happened. The gun glowed red, then melted in the prisoner's hands. He screamed in pain, dropped to the ground, and his skin began to peel like wax. The weapon had turned against him. Krell ran toward the guards. Vale was already there. Calm as always, she watched the prisoner twitching on the ground. He wasn't dying. He was changing. Krell stared in horror. What's happening to him? Vale replied coldly, "This is why we never use tech. The jungle bends it, warps it. It becomes part of it." The prisoner's arms cracked. His face stretched. His eyes went black. One of the guards raised a knife. "No," Vale said. "Not yet." The prisoner stood up, but he wasn't himself. He looked around slowly. His head twitched. His mouth opened unnaturally wide, like it was about to scream. But instead he whispered, "I see you, Krell." The thing ran back into the jungle. Guards did not follow. Krell looked at Vale, afraid. "He spoke my name. He's not the first," she said. "And he won't be the last." That night, a meeting was called. 2 prisoners had disappeared. One guard was injured, his face clawed, chest bleeding. Krell asked, "Why aren't we locking these prisoners up? Why not control them?" Vale turned to him. "This is not a prison. Like others, we are not here to control them. We are here to keep them inside." Krell frowned. "But some of them are monsters now." Vale nodded. "That's what this planet does. It turns minds inside out. The weak ones go first, then the clever ones, then the ones who think they are strong." Later, Krell found Doran again. The old guard looked tired. His hands were shaking. "You okay?" Krell asked. "No," Doran said. "I dreamed of the circle again." "The cage circle?" Doran nodded. "I was inside it, but it was empty. That means the thing inside is moving again." Krell's stomach turned. "Should we tell Vale?" Doran said nothing. Instead, he held out a small object, a black rock, cold, smooth, with a tiny red crack across it. "What is this?" Krell asked. Doran whispered, "A Velok." The next morning, the jungle changed. The trees moved. The wind howled. And something deep underground began to hum. The guards felt it first. They stood straighter, eyes sharp, weapons ready. Vale walked to the center of the camp. "It's happening," she said. "What is?" Krell asked. Vale turned to him slowly. "The real prisoner is waking up." Suddenly, a flare lit up the sky. Red dot on emergency signal. A group of prisoners had formed a riot camp deep in the trees. Dozens of them, building fires, chants. A few had drawn symbols into the ground, symbols that matched the strange markings near the jungle deaths. "They're trying to call something," a guard said. "They already have," Vale replied. A team of guards prepared to march. Krell followed. They moved in silence through the forest. The further they went, the more wrong the world became. Time slowed. Sounds echoed. Trees moved when they weren't looking. Krell blinked and suddenly, the sky was green for 2 seconds, then blue again. They reached the riot camp. It was quiet. No prisoners in sight. Only one figure remained kneeling, drawing circles in the dirt with a sharp bone. It was Zarn, the 4-armed alien who had vanished. Krell stepped forward. "Zarn?" Zarn looked up slowly. His eyes were missing. He smiled. "You finally came." Krell froze. Guards surrounded Zarn, but no one moved. The air grew colder. Zarn stood, and behind him, a shadow began to form, not like a man, not like an animal, like a hole in reality. It stretched and moved without shape. One guard dropped his weapon and began whispering, "It's not real. It's not real. It's not real." Vale raised her hand. "Back away," she ordered. But the whispering guard stepped forward and the shadow swallowed him. Hold that gun. In one breath, panic broke out. The remaining prisoners, hiding nearby, screamed and ran in every direction. Pulled into a circle, knives raised, Krell felt something behind him. He turned. A tree had moved, closer, not fallen. Not blown by wind. Moved out like it was alive. The fight began. Guards fought prisoners. But no guns were used, only knives. Fire, smoke. Krell watched as Vale cut through attackers with calm skill. She moved like someone who had done this too many times. Stay. In the circle. She shouted, but it was breaking. The jungle was pushing in. Then Krell fell. He was pulled down by a prisoner. Fell. Into a hole in the earth. Darkness. Silence. Then a voice. You want to understand? Come closer. He opened his eyes. He was lying inside a strange cave. The walls were not made of stone, but of bone. And in front of him stood himself, a perfect mirror image. The other Krell smiled. You're the key. It said. Krell tried to speak, but the cave shook violently. Every time you dream, the double said, you let me in. Krell screamed. He woke up back in the camp. Bloody, weak, shaking. Guards surrounded him. Vale leaned over him. You fell. You stopped breathing for 3 minutes. I saw it, Krell said. I saw the real prisoner. She nodded. I know. Later that night, the guards buried the dead. 2 prisoners were lost. 1 guard was gone, but the jungle had grown. A new clearing had appeared, filled with dead trees. And in the center, burned into the dirt, was a symbol. Not alien, not human. It was a door, a perfect black door. Krell knew it from his dreams. It followed him out. Vale spoke with Doran. This is worse than last time, Doran said. It's reaching for him. It always does, Vale replied. But why Krell? Because he listens. That night, Krell wrote a final line in his journal. I came to study the jungle. But now the jungle studies me. And somewhere far away, inside the cage circle, the real prisoner smiled. Krell woke up with blood on his hands, not his own. He didn't know where it came from. His journal was open beside him. A message was written on the page, but not in his handwriting. Dig, now. He stood, heart pounding. The guards were asleep. The camp was quiet. The jungle was still, but Krell felt watched again. He walked to the far side of the camp, where no one went. Behind a broken tree, he found an old stone buried in the ground. Something called him to it. He dropped to his knees and began to dig with his hands. He dug for hours. His nails cracked. His fingers bled. And then he found metal. It was a hatch. Old, rusted, with strange markings. Not human. Not alien. Krell wiped the dirt away. One symbol stood out, a spiral with an eye. In the center, he didn't know what it meant, but it stared back at him. Later, Vale found him. He was still kneeling beside the hatch. You found it, she said softly. You knew it was here? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? She looked away. Because only someone marked by the jungle can open it. Krell looked at her confused. Marked? Vale reached out and touched his face. Behind. His left ear was a thin black line like ink beneath the skin. It hadn't been there before, she whispered. It's chosen you. Vale gathered 4 guards and opened the hatch with Krell. Inside was a dark staircase made of old stone and bone. The air was thick, heavy, smelled like dust and death. They climbed down. Slowly. Each step creaked. Each breath felt harder. Finally, they entered a room. Silent, cold. In the center were hundreds of bones, not from humans. Alien bones. Dozens of species. The walls were covered in writing, etched into the rock. Krell touched the nearest wall, and his vision changed. He saw the past, not like a dream, like a memory not his own, millions of years ago, before humans existed, before the Galactic Union. There was only them, the ancient races, powerful beings, Some lived in space. Some under oceans. Some in pure energy. They had built a prison, not for a person, not for a weapon, but for an idea. A living thought. A shadow of madness. It had no name. It whispered into minds, changed them, broke them. It could not be destroyed, only locked away. So they built Deathworld 19 as its cage, and they left guards. First, the crystal minds of Xerian monks. They went insane. Then, the telepathic race of Kalern. They turned violent, killed each other. Then the reptilian warriors. They began worshipping the darkness. Each one failed, until the ancients tried humans. Primitive, violent, broken, but strangely resistant. Humans felt fear, but kept going. Humans broke, but kept fighting. The ancients never understood why, but the humans survived. Krel gasped and fell back. Vale caught him. "What did you see?" she asked. "The first guards," he said. "They weren't human," she nodded. "Only humans remain. Everyone else became part of the jungle." They left the chamber. As they climbed back up, Krell asked, "Why are you still here, Vale? Why not leave?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then she said quietly, "Because I made a promise. Long ago." "A promise to who?" Vale's voice cracked. "To my brother." He opened the door. "I stayed behind to make sure it stays shut." Later, the jungle changed again. Storms began above the forest, but no wind. Just clouds circling in a spiral like a black eye in the sky. Guards stood with their backs to each other. One guard, Nero, began humming a tune. It was a lullaby. He had no memory of ever hearing it. Then he spoke without moving his mouth. "It's almost time." His voice echoed twice. Then he collapsed, and his mouth smiled. Even in death, Krell knew what it meant. The thing inside the jungle was no longer sleeping. It had started waking up. It was speaking. Through the trees. Through the dreams. Through the dead. That night, Krell found Doran again. The old guard was sitting alone, sharpening a stone blade. "Do you believe it?" Krell asked. "About the ancient races, the prison, all of it?" Doran looked up. "I don't believe it," he said. "I remember it." Krell stared. "You were in that room?" Doran nodded slowly. 40 years ago, I came with a team of scientists. We wanted to study the jungle, only I survived." "Why?" Doran held up his wrist. "The skin was black like burned metal. The jungle gave me a choice: leave with memory, or stay and forget. I chose to remember." Then he handed Krell a knife. "Next time it speaks to you, answer it. But not with words." "What then?" "Show it why humans were chosen." In the distance, the jungle howled. The door from Krell's dream had appeared again, this time in the trees. But now, it was open, just a crack, and something was looking back through it. The sky above Deathworld 19 had turned dark red. Not from sun or storm. It was just wrong. Like the sky had been wounded. The guards stood in silence, faces tense, blades ready. Even Vale looked uneasy. "It's begun," she said quietly. Krell followed her to the edge of the jungle. The door from his dreams was still there. Now wider. It didn't stand on anything. It floated in the air, just between two black trees. Inside was only darkness. But Krell felt something watching. Vale placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're going in." Krell looked at her, shocked. "Alone?" She nodded. "It wants you. It chose you. I'm not ready. No one ever is." Krell stepped forward. As he crossed the threshold, the world changed. Colors faded. Sounds bent. Gravity twisted. He had entered the Whisper Forest. The trees were taller here. Thinner. Black as coal. They leaned inward, like they were listening. There was no wind. No bugs. No animals. But voices filled the air. Whispers. Too many to count. Too soft to understand. Krell kept walking. His footsteps made no sound. The forest floor was soft, like skin. Then he heard one whisper clearly. "Krell, don't forget who you are." It was his mother's voice, but she had died years ago. He turned sharply. No one was there. Another voice spoke. You left us, Krell. That was Vale's voice. You opened the door. You belong to us now. The voices circled him. Then he saw them dot figures in the trees. Some had human shapes. Others were twisted too tall, too thin, walking like broken puppets. They watched silently. None attacked. They just stared. Some had no faces. Some were the faces of people Krell had known. A child, a teacher, a woman he once loved. He shut his eyes. None of this is real, he whispered. But when he opened his eyes, the forest had changed. Now it looked like his home planet. Mountains, grass, blue sky, peaceful. But the trees were still black, and the whispers never stopped. He walked deeper. Time felt strange. An hour? A day? He didn't know. He found a clearing. In the center stood a stone table. A body lay on it. His own body. Unmoving. Eyes open. Mouth stitched shut. Krell stepped back, heart pounding. A voice behind him whispered, "This is how it ends, unless you accept us." He turned. A figure stood behind him. No face. No shape, just black smoke and long arms. The same one from his dream cave. You carry the lock, Krell. Give it to us. Free us. Krell reached to his side. The black rock shard Doran gave him was glowing red. The entity reached for it. With this, the door opens forever. Krell felt weak, dizzy. Voices inside his head screamed, begged, tempted. You don't belong with them. You're not like the guards. You're like us. He raised the rock. Then he remembered something Doran said. Answer it, but not with words. Krell gripped the shard tightly, then stabbed it into his own chest. Pain exploded through his body, but the jungle screamed louder. Not in words. In rage. The image of his body on the table cracked and vanished. The black forest burned away like smoke. The whispers turned to screeches, and suddenly he was back, lying outside. The real door. Vale and the guards stood over him. He was pale, shaking, bleeding from the chest but alive. Vale helped him sit up. What did you see? She asked. Krell looked into the trees. They offered me peace, he said. Vale nodded. That's always the first lie. Later that night, the jungle stayed silent. For the first time in days, no whispers. No moving trees. Even the air was still. But the door was still open, a little less now. But not shut. Doran limped up beside Krell. You made your first stand. It won't be the last, Krell said. Doran smiled sadly. No, now you're one of us. Krell looked at the shard, still glowing faintly in his hand. It wasn't just a piece of the lock anymore. It was part of him. In the distance, deep inside the jungle, the ancient thing watched. Not angry. Not afraid, but interested. For the first time in a long age. It was curious. The red sky above Deathworld 19 had turned gray. The jungle was quiet, now. Too quiet. The trees stood still. No wind, no sounds, no whispers. Not even the guards spoke. It felt like the whole planet was holding its breath. Krell sat with Vale and Doran by the main fire. He held the black shard in his hand. The wound in his chest had closed, but a dark symbol had appeared there. A small circle burned into his skin. It left a mark, Krell said. It always does. Doran replied. You went deep, Vale added. It touched your mind, Krell nodded. But I touched it back. Doran placed a hand-drawn map on the ground. In the center was a wide circle. No one had gone near it in years. The cage circle. The true heart of the jungle. The place where the ancient creature was locked. The place where the whispers began. And now the door was pointing straight toward it. Vale pointed at the map. If that thing escapes the cage circle, this planet becomes a weapon. Against what? Krell asked. Against reality itself, she said. It doesn't kill, it infects. Ideas, beliefs, memory, language, all twisted. Doran nodded. The madness would spread through minds, through dreams, It could jump systems just by being thought about. Krell felt cold. How do we stop it? Vale looked at him. You already began. You resisted it. You heard it. Now we end it. Krell blinked. End it how? That night, the guards prepared. 10 would go. 5 would not return. Everyone knew it. They packed nothing but knives, ropes, fire oil, and a few bloodstone charms. Krell tightened his boots and placed the shard in a cloth pouch near his heart. Vale handed him a wooden coin. What's this? A reminder, she said. Of what? Who you are. The journey took 2 days. As they moved through the jungle, it began again. The whispers returned. Soft at first. Then louder. Each guard heard different things. One heard his dead father. Another heard a lover's voice begging for help. Doran started speaking to trees, but no one broke. Not this time. Krell heard something too. Why do you resist me? I can give you peace. You belong to me. He answered out loud, voice strong. No. I belong to us. Finally, they reached it. The cage circle, a perfect ring of black stone towers. Each one cracked, leaning, covered in vines. No life inside the circle, just gray dirt. No trees, no plants. At the center, a wide pit. Smoke rose from it. Whispers leaked out. Come closer. Free me, please. Krell stepped forward. The shard in his pouch began to burn. Vale held out her hand. Give it to me. Krell hesitated. Why? He asked. Because you might not come back. Krell looked at the pit. At the towers, the smoke, the shadow inside. No, he said. I opened it. I'll close it. He pulled the shard out. It was glowing red hot. Guards formed a ring around the pit. Vale whispered something in a language Krell didn't understand. Doran threw powder into the smoke. The whispers screamed. Then Krell stepped into the pit. He walked down. Stone steps carved long ago. Each step pulled at his mind. He saw things, visions, memories, dreams. He saw his childhood. His failures, his fears. He saw himself falling, dying, screaming. But he kept going. At the bottom of the pit was a black mirror. It was not glass. It was alive. And it spoke. You came alone. You carry my blood now. We could be one. Krell held up the shard. It cracked in his hand. Light poured out. You don't need to fight me, the voice said. The others are just walls. You are the door. Krell took one final breath, then stabbed the shard into the black mirror. The ground shook. The towers screamed. The jungle howled. Above the pit, the guards held their circle. Vale shouted words of power. Doran lit the flame. The whole cage circle burned. In the pit, Krell stood frozen. The mirror had cracked. Black light poured from it. Then a second voice spoke. You are not the first, but you may be the last. Suddenly, the mirror shattered. A wave of force hit Krell and knocked him out. He woke up 3 days later in the camp. Vale sat beside him. You lived, she said. Krell sat up, coughing. What happened? You closed it. The mirror. The whispers stopped. Is it gone? She shook her head. No, never gone, but now it sleeps again. Later, Doran gave Krell back the wooden coin. You earned it. Krell looked at it again. This time he noticed the writing carved into it. I hold the line. Krell stood at the edge of the jungle. The sky was blue again. The trees were still. The door was gone, but his mark remained, and now he understood what this place truly was. Not a prison, not a battlefield, but a shield, made from human minds. And now, he was part of that shield. 1 month had passed since the mirror broke. The jungle was quiet now. No whispers, no missing prisoners, no shifting trees. It was like the planet had gone to sleep. But Krell knew better. He had seen the truth. He walked the edge of the jungle each morning. Just like Vale once did. He listened for strange sounds. Watched the treetops. The door had not come back, but the mark on his chest still burned some nights. He didn't tell the others. They needed peace. He carried the burden now. Many guards had left after the cage circle was sealed. Some were broken, others afraid. Only a few stayed. Krell stayed. So did Doran. Old but calm. So did Vale. Though she spoke less now. Like her soul had burned too close to something ancient. One night, a prisoner named Jarn tried to escape. He ran into the jungle. Krell chased him. He knew Jarn wouldn't survive alone, not in the old paths. Krell ran through vines, leaves, fog. But found Jarn standing still. Frozen. Looking up. Do you see it? Jarn whispered. Krell followed his gaze, and then he saw it too. Above the trees, far above the sky, hanging in the clouds like a wound in space, was a single black eye. It had no lashes. No skin. No form, just a round hole that looked back. Jarn dropped to his knees and began to laugh. Krell pulled him away, but he kept laughing. That night, Vale said the words no one wanted to hear. It's still watching. Doran nodded. It always does. It waits for cracks. Krell asked, what do we do? Vale whispered, we become the wall. The next day, a message came from the Galactic Union. They were shutting down the Deathworld prison program. Too dangerous. Too unstable. Too many dead. But Deathworld 19 could not be shut down. Not truly. So the Union gave an order. All guards may leave. No more transfers. No more records. Deathworld 19 is now erased from official maps. Most prisoners were relocated. Most guards packed up. But Krell, Vale, and Doran stayed. A few others did too. They did not ask to be remembered. They simply stood guard. Years passed. The jungle stayed quiet. The sky stayed clean. But sometimes at night Krell still heard it. A soft whisper. A small crackle under the earth. The feeling of being watched from behind the trees. Not loud. Not strong. But patient. He wrote in his final log. It doesn't hate us. It doesn't love us. It only wants out, and we are the key. Not because we are perfect, but because we are broken the right way. Far away, in a forgotten control room, one final message played on loop. Only humans resist it. Only humans remain sane. Only humans hold the line. And somewhere beneath the jungle, where roots wrapped around the bones of ancient watchers, the thing that watches smiled, for it knew. All walls crack eventually.